like many novelists, there was the book I knew I was writing, that I consciously set out to write. And then there was the book that emerged. That book was about the power of story and how story really fastens itself in us and gives us our identity, gives us our way of constructing reality. I'm Janice Steinberg, author of The Tin Horse, a book about family and the stories we tell. The Tin Horse is about two sisters, Elaine and Barbara, growing up in a Jewish immigrant family in Los Angeles in the 1920s and 30s. Elaine is the bookish sister, Barbara's the wild one. Something that occurred often in Boyle Heights, and I think is true so often in immigrant families, is the parents had come, many of them from nothing, were working in very working class jobs and wanted so much more for their children. Boyle Heights is a really vibrant community with a very strong ethnic identity. These days, it's a Mexican-American identity. You know, I've kind of like scouted around and imagined, is this the house that Elaine's family would have lived in? I loved doing research into Boyle Heights in the 20s and 30s. I was thrilled to discover that an oral history project had been done with people who grew up there.
Oh my, yes.
There were these audio tapes. I sat for hours listening to people's stories and the warmth that they had for growing up in Boyle Heights.
I was born on an entirely Jewish street in an entirely Jewish section of Boyle Heights.
When I sat down to write, I was often felt like I was really in the dark, or I maybe could see a tiny smidge ahead of me. I can see this scene happening next. But it was often a process of discovery. At 11:52 p.m. on March 28, 1921, Barbara wriggled out of Mama into the brightness of White Memorial Hospital on Boyle Avenue in Los Angeles. 17 minutes, but the next day, later, I swam after her. Elaine in The Tin Horse has a story that she's carried all her life. And this is up until age 85 in the contemporary parts of the book. And she's always felt like she was the one with her nose pressed to the window, wanting in by the warmth of the fire and the warmth of that relationship between her mother and her sister. And she goes back and has to question that belief about herself. Looking at my family photographs, there's just a sense of these people from another world who find themselves in America and are going to make themselves into Americans. By hook or by crook, they are determined to be citizens of this new country and to reinvent themselves. From the time I was 8 years old and knew I wanted to write, what I dreamed of doing was writing a book that would feel so real to people, that it was as if they lived inside of it.
Let's do one more time looking at me and just a little more natural, not quite as scripted, not quite as scripted. I mean, I know